the first to know Nsem-Pii TV.
Sir, Jebekaya Wabra na NDC amanyukuo no eba bepri tumi no ene boshe de NDC amanyukuo no ehye bi papa a eno enye asem kotwa edu ba bi John Dramani Mahama kra de ba betu edwa se Ghana for etoaba edema NDC amanyukuo na ode one ema no 120 days per, which is 4 months. Or no, a bit media says Sammy Bia, ewo my Ghana, and your case even galamsey. Say Obakra, Afedia approach Bia Yusua Anya Jumebiano, or no, at the AI, artificial intelligence, and a beco galamsey, no, now within 120 days, and waiting me at 2 as year, cra a enye asem kotwa Ghana for a tuabama and a bushia for Afedia galamsey, no, I west, baby a ekekakono. Say yan soreni ankasa enti a wanhwe bedu baabi nsuo kra ebe no eho ayeden na no ana former president Nyankopon emfa ne kra nsi John Fifi Evans Atamels ono ankasa ni nua Cadman Mills enso ede na no atumbi ene wa kasapa a enya asem koto na de nkotie.
I think there's clearly a conflict. I have listened to John Mahama, and in fact, sometime last year, he made a comment which showed me very clearly that he was quite conscious of the so-called positive impact that earnings from small-scale mining are having, or can potentially have on the economy. The Gold Board keeps boasting a lot about how much they have been buying from the small-scale miners. So that definitely is there in their mind. They realize that stopping that will have an impact, whether we like it or not, on the stability of the city. Is that what is driving them or making them a little lackadaisical in the fight? I don't know, but we have to acknowledge that there's this conflict, there's this very obvious conflict, right, between how the city is performing, a ruthless fight against galamsey, which stops virtually all of small-scale mining because most of them, if not virtually all, are not doing the right thing. I did some looking around last year when I started writing on galamsey, and on Twitter, by the way. I have many tweets dating from October last week, where in fact I call galamsey environmental terrorism. And that's why I was a little upset that people are saying that I just came, to the field. No, I've been working on it. I was at, GNPC. Yeah. I know the extractive sectors, and therefore I very much, look at the conflict between the collective good and the personal good, personal gain, and how it can best, be joined. And therefore, here we are. If you look at one of the tweets that I did, actually last year, when looking at the policy of the government to allow so-called licensed small-scale mining, I actually did an extensive tweet where I pointed out that maybe we have to reconsider small-scale mining in Ghana because there's no way a small-scale miner can afford to do it right. How do you do it right? First of all, because of the conflict between the collective good and the personal good, you cannot just simply say, listen, I would like to mine. First, you apply for an exploration license. An exploration license permits you to determine if indeed there are economic deposits in the area where you would like to mine. Once you make that determination, just simply by exploring, not mining, but actually exploring, and it requires some very sophisticated geological and scientific methods to determine the size of the deposit and whether or not it's economic and everything else. Then you prepare what they call a plan of development. A plan of development tells the person that you're going to apply for the mining license from, that first of all, from the society's point of view, you are going to use the most efficient methods in order to mine, so that we will not spend more resources in terms of capital, in terms of labor, in order to get the gold out of the soil. Secondly, that you're going to use a method which doesn't do too much damage to the environment. And therefore you prepare an environmental assessment plan, and you put in mitigation measures to correct any damage that we can foresee can be caused to the environment. It is then and only then that society can give you a license to mine. That is not what is happening in Ghana. Any bozo just simply goes because he's a party member and he's given a license to explore. And the exploration license is being used to actually mine in areas where maybe there is gold, maybe there isn't gold. And unfortunately, it's become almost like accepted that if you hold a license, even if it's just simply exploration license, then you're free to go. And it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable because you are talking to me now about the repercussions. You know I was in Ghana very recently.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I didn't tell you is that I was very sick. I had been away only for a year. But just simply drinking the water in the central region, not even drinking it actually, using it to cook, using it to brush my teeth. I had a major stomach upset for almost all the time that I was there. That was the click to me that, look, this thing is not, it's not some theory. And you don't have to be in the mining, zone in order to be affected by it. The food we eat, you're telling me about the heavy metals. The water, just simply by looking at it. And its impact on generations to come. Children being born with heavy metals and developmental retardation and things like that. It's the way we are handling this thing, it's a scandal.
Doc, do you support the calls for a state of emergency to be declared in certain areas?
If for no other reason than the psychological impact that says, look, we are not playing around. I think it needs to be done. Much more importantly, I think we have to call the government to task. I see, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am, that really the government is a little conflicted in its fight against the galamsey. It's not taking it seriously.
What makes you say
On
that?
the one hand, the benefits that clearly the government is receiving, because they are diverting the foreign exchange earnings that would have gone to unofficial channels into the official channels, is doing a lot, right, to help or to stabilize the value of the city, right? So that is one of the reasons why the government is a little conflicted about it. At one level, they're getting all the praise for being able to stabilize this, actually first bring it down, and secondly, stabilize it. And third, a lot of foreign exchange earnings. In fact, the government itself, at some point or the other, started boasting that they were looking at 160 tons, right, from gold this year, at which I reacted also on Twitter that could be our death knell, As a result of it, they feel comfortable about buying gold from so-called licensed miners. But a lot of these licensed miners are not even miners. They only are bankrolling galamsey by buying excavators, by buying pumps and chaff sums, or whatever they call it, and giving it to small people to do the galamsey, right? And they think they are doing the right thing just because they hold a license. That's unacceptable. They hold a license to explore. They don't hold a license to mine. And I think that the government has to be very clear about it. And it's not even acceptable to say that, well, it's a sacrifice that we have to make. No, it's a sacrifice that we don't have to make.
Yesterday, I was just going through my phone and I saw that the Gold Board is actually hoping to implement the first step of Dr. Bawumia's plan against galamsey. And if you would remember, we can even go back and find the videos. I've sat on this platform several times to discuss that 8-point plan, and I don't know why you're smiling, to discuss that 8-point plan. And I can see that at least now you've realized that you sat in opposition for 8 years. You didn't know what you were coming to do about this problem. You had no solutions. You were just a very effective critic because that's easier to do. So now that you've come, if you are going to implement some of the things that a lot of people have looked at and said, this is the way we could do this, at least give some credit where credit is due. Because one of the problems that we identified with this whole fight was the whole idea of people going prospecting, and I'm sure that's what is happening right now. And so that also draws in this problem of licenses. If you are a large-scale miner, like a small to medium-scale mining, you've done a little more research before you go. But a lot of places where this galamsey goes on, they just see a bare concession. Sometimes it's even concessions that somebody has already started mining and left. Then they go there and they start panning and they are destroying the river. So it's not always that it's like an organized group of people. That's what makes it so difficult to fight. I am quite happy that I'm seeing a different approach by the NDC government where they are beginning to listen that the way they've been fighting this thing is not working. And so let's follow who know road. Let's look at who has come up with a different plan as to how to tackle this matter. And I'm quite happy that they are doing that. I hope they're able to implement it effectively. And lastly, I'm hoping they can give credit where credit is due.
In the words of Eslo, we cannot take advice from people who run bottles because we are not in the bottle running business. And we cannot be taking advice from the MPP on how to fight galamsey.
Oh, but you're using our policies?
We are not using your policies. We have our own policies. This is one of our. If I did Central Religious Manifesto, if you want to,
I know what's in your. I have your manifesto here, and there's nothing there about using geological survey. There's nothing there. I can read your manifesto on mining to you.
We are talking about. We're talking
what? I think they are just lying. Let her finish.
We're talking about geofencing and all kinds of using AI and all kinds of
geological survey.
No, have you seen the Gold Board's approach? What I just explained.
I'm saying that are you as MPP owning geological survey?
No, that's not what I said. That's not what I said, and you do not misconstrue my words. I said using the geological survey to essentially put.
Yeah, but you just told her that.
No, she knows exactly what I was talking about. Gold Board's plan to use the geological survey to show people exactly where the gold is.
I'm just trying to say that geological survey was not your idea. It's been there for years.
No. How can you say this? Using them to actually prospect for all of this so that you go. No, so tell me where. Tell me that now you can go to the geological survey and they'll show you that this is where the gold is. So why has Gold Board just launched it? Why do we always do this? You didn't see the press release of them saying that they. No, we are now putting them to use in that aspect. Are you also sitting here and telling me that they've been doing that? They've been prospecting for the illegal mining sector. Are you saying
that right from, say, Kufuor's days till now, no leader has mentioned geological survey?
No, that was the question. Not mentioning geological. Anybody can mention geological survey. To use them in this way to do this work.
Did you use them?
I told you at the end of my very long submission. No, let me land. I told you that at the end of my very long submission that we fought the fight for a long time and we learned a lot of things. And so that was one of the ways that we were going to pivot.
You were going to?
Yes, that's the same way. The NDC was also there from 2012 to 2016. Why didn't they also use geological survey? You fight something and you learn.
Bafuboni. And this is the story. This is a gist. I'm going to share with you. It's a gist. So there were people within the president's office, inner circle of President Mahama, who didn't want Bafuboni to be nominated as a Chief Justice. That's normal. It's natural. It always happens. In politics, that's the game. There were those who wanted Justice Bafuboni also to be nominated. So what you do when you have a situation like that, you don't get upset. because there's nothing to get upset about political appointments. They'll always be lobbying for other people. However you think somebody is qualified, another person has a different opinion. That's the inner circle politics around the presidents of Ghana and presidents of everywhere. So you don't have to get upset that people don't want your choice. They want another person. What you do then, if you can, is to develop and devise a strategy that will help you to achieve the results. Because the president's an individual, he's a politician, he's an individual, as a leader. He's going to listen to everyone, and then you have to find a way to sway the president to your side. It happens on a daily basis when presidents are about to make important and sensitive appointments. So the gist is that the NDC people who supported Justice Bafo-Boni, they mentioned to him, the chief, the thing is becoming very tight. You have Amadou Tanko in there. And the lobby for Amadou Tanko is coming from very important, significant quarters. I won't mention the name, but they told me. It's coming from very important quarters. Amadou Tanko's nomination. There's also the age-old Justice Kulendi thing, which is also being captured by some important people around the president. In fact, some of the president's immediate family wanted Justice Kulendi. Okay. And then there are also those who think that Justice Gabriel Poaman has done more than enough to get the situation, something they call the situation. We don't know what it is, but we can surmise that is reference to the talk or no removal. We can surmise that, but we don't know. So Justice Gabriel Poaman too should be considered for the position. In any case, Bafo-Boni will end in December 2026, next year. He's gone. Okay. So the supporters of Bafo-Boni, we heard this last week, told him that, Chief, one of the ways in which you can get this thing is you have an invitation to the bar conference, you speak there. Perhaps you should touch on galamsey, perhaps, because it's real. The galamsey is a problem. When you touch on galamsey, you will be able to attract some attachment of independence to your candidature. Because right now, it is suspected that there has been a railroading of Tokonu out of the seat. And it is suspected that all of us have participated in this process. So if you were to stand one step away and speak about galamsey, which is true and which is public knowledge, you will be able to attach to yourself a certain sense of independence. That will make it very difficult for the government to ignore you as the acting Chief Justice and place another person, because the independent MPP media, the Paul Adomotris of this world, Miracles Abuaje and Nana B and all those people who come on Good Morning Ghana for MPP talkatives and all that, they are all going to point fingers at John Mahama and say that, oh, you see, the guy was acting. Because he spoke against the president, they didn't give it to him, and it's going to paint the president as an intolerable kind of person. Already, the president having to struggle with that kind of narrative. And he's a president who has always been presented as one who is very friendly and who is very tolerating of people who don't like him. And so you see John Mahama smiling with MPP people, shaking hands with MPP people. He seems to tolerate people who don't like him in politics, who don't like his politics. He would like to keep that image. So if you go hard at galamsey, it just might work. That was the lobby. This is what we hear. That was the lobby. It appeared that it was successful. Hugely successful. Because today, here we are congratulating Justice Paul Bafo-Boni, and who is now being taught about as for all of these civil society, independent thinkers, think that, oh, he's a very independent-minded judge. He was acting Chief Justice. He went to the galamsey place and spoke about the issue. Now, why did that have to happen? Why did Justice Bafo-Boni why did he need to do something to give him a certain sense of independence? Because right from the get-go on the Tokonu matter, it had appeared, and references had been made, that Justice Bafo-Boni as acting Chief Justice had empaneled, he sat on the panel, Tokonu lost all the decisions, everything was against her, she complained to the Supreme Court and the unanimous decision. At some point, the court said they have no jurisdiction because the matters are in camera. All of these things, legal as they may be, clothed with legal legitimacy as it may be, seem to have suffered quite a bit of moral legitimacy. All of these decisions. However much that they were clothed with legal legitimacy because it's a procedure, they seem to suffer a bit of political and moral legitimacy. So in those circumstances, all of the people who had participated may have been suffering some deficit of moral and political. If one of them, the Lord, the acting Chief Justice, were to speak about this very obvious matter, the Catholic Bishops' Conference had written about it. If he were to speak about it, just maybe he will attract and attach himself with some